He's gonna bite your tail. You don't want your tail, huh? Oh.
Okay, so today we're gonna ask you questions about how it was when you were in the 60s and 70s and life as a hippie. So if you can take a minute to introduce yourself to the camera or to me.
I'm Lonnie Renard. I'm Lauren's stepmom. I am a 1960 leftover flower child from Haight-Ashbury. And it was the best time I can't remember.
That about sums it up.
About sums it up.
And I am Lauren Renard, and this is my techno history interview project. And we're ready to begin. Now let's start with, describe to me in your own words what you would define as a hippie. And what is it that you stand for?
Well, I think being a real hippie is something more than just something of the times. It's something that's in your soul, I guess. Yeah. And it's not standing for anything. At the time, it was during the Vietnam War. We protested. We burned our bras. Some burned the flag, I didn't. And we definitely protested the war, but not the soldiers. Big difference. Didn't protest our soldiers. And we did a lot of drugs.
Yes.
Stupidly. Innocently, and some very harmfully. But we did them.
You mentioned the Vietnam War, which leads to my next question. We all know what the hippie movement stood for against the war, but what was your personal feelings towards the war?
It was immoral, it was wrong. It was hard to see people I know get drafted or run away or get killed. Nothing.
Yeah.
For nothing. You know, if you thought something came out of it and there was a reason, then damn it, you stand behind them and you go, whether you like it or not. This was useless.
What, in your opinion, was useless about the war? Why was it?
It was all for political gain. It was a chessboard of the politicians. And I can't think of anything more immoral. And even now, we turn our eye to them. They haven't changed. The morals have gotten even worse, you know, partly because of us. We've evolved into a lot more, but there was nothing moral about it. Ask me what was moral would be easier to answer, because nothing.
Yeah, that's definitely understandable. What was your daily life like throughout the movement?
Well, I ran into a group of older kids. I was only 13 when I took off and started hitchhiking. I had a friend, I met a person named Dude. And
his name was Dude?
Dude. That's all I'm privileged to say.
All right.
And he was a good friend. We went to Haight-Ashbury, and our eyes wide closed. You know, we thought we knew everything, we knew nothing. But I fell into older people, into a group of older people, and I had to work. And I came from a really stable, clean home where I was used to that, so it was no problem. So I had to get a job, and I did. And I got up and I went to work every day, 7 days a week. Yeah.
Where did you work?
I worked on the corner of Haight and Ash Street in a leather shop.
Right in the middle of everything.
Right in the middle. And we had a little jewelry. It started out as a little thing and it turned into quite a big thing. And a jewelry counter. Several of us worked. And it was through the people I landed with you know, knowing somebody knew somebody who knew somebody and taught me. And I used to make sand candles, and they built me a big sandbox for my birthday one year, and I would just get high and go out and play in my sandbox. Then I'd sell them in the shop.
Yeah. What is an event that relates to the movement that sticks out to you the most or shocks you the most?
I have a stick out moment and a shock moment. I have a stick out moment when I first landed there. There was just a free flowing jam session in the park.
Mm-hmm.
And there was Joplin, there was Joe McDonald, there was from Country Joe and the Fish, there was I can't think, like 2 or 3 other people that became famous during that movement. Just jamming, smoking and jamming, passing joints and jamming. And it was really cool, and it was really far out, and it was a lot of what was happening then.
Yeah.
You know, and to happen at that time with these people was just, God was with me the whole time. I was safe the whole time, but it was, you know, it was just something that was there. It was just happened to be. The chances were 1 in 10 million.
Yeah. That sounds really exciting. What was the shocking moment?
We were protesting in Berkeley, and a few people got carried away and got arrested, and I came this close, and again, by the grace of God, I should have been, but I wasn't, and I didn't get arrested, and some people got beat. You know, it wasn't a fairy tale anymore.
Mm-hmm.
People I knew, people I didn't know. Got beat. One later died because of injuries, and some were on drugs and OD'd. And the shock value, I mean, it was a reality to. It wasn't fun and games. I wasn't playing make believe.
Yeah.
I was doing grown-up things at a very young age, and by the grace of God, I fell into an older group that kind of protected me without smothering me because I didn't need it. I knew it all,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and yet I didn't even know what they were doing and how they had molded me through that whole thing, being older hippies.
Yeah.
And the shock, you know, I mean, what turned into a movement that we believed in with all of our heart, the free love, the peace, everything started out that way. And everybody was arm in arm, and then the drugs got a hold. And the crooks came, or friends became crooks and became drug addicts, and reality of life, you know, set in, and it's the same now. You see it going now. I see it from older eyes than you do.
Yes.
I see the same old thing, but just another generation. It's just a little bit more shock value each time, I think.
Yeah. That's really heavy. Were you present in any of the rather large rallies or protests?
There weren't any small ones in San Francisco at the time.
Mm-hmm.
San Francisco's always been wild.
Yes.
Hippie cannot take hold of that. We wanted the peace side of it,
Mm-hmm.
and what did you ask me?
That's all right. That's all right. I asked you if you were present in any of the large rallies or protests.
Yeah. I mean, that was part of being a hippie. That kind of defined who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You stood up for what you believed, and you marched. And even now, you know, you'll hear me stand up for what you believe.
Yes.
We just fight it differently now.
Were you in one that was televised in the past?
Yeah, but I never saw me on TV. which was good. Because
Yes.
if I saw me, then my parents would see me.
That would be bad.
They were up there one summer, man, I was, oh, yeah.
Were your parents aware of what you were doing and where you went?
No. They had a suspicion because I had a cousin that was, boy, he was one of the very beginning, even down in Laguna Canyon, and involved with Timothy Leary. That's how I met him. And I just idolized Skeeter. And so they thought maybe, but I stayed away from him. He'd have nothing to do with me because he did not want the wrath of our family on him because of me.
That's a smart move by him.
I got leftovers till I was way older. They moved, I got to go in the canyon, but not until then.
Let's see. Were you ever discriminated against for being a hippie?
My whole life. And I don't know if it's, like I said, it's more than a movement. It's something of who you are. So when I say my whole life, I mean, because look at the way I dress.
Yes.
Obviously I cleaned up for the camera today. But I still have all my tie-dyes and my jewelry, the gaudier the better. I did cut my hair finally. But, yeah, you still get looked at. You're even judged. People are judgmental, and people will always judge you. No matter what your difference is, no matter what you stand up for, you're going to be judged. So you might as well make it count.
That's true for a lot of people. And that's a good thing that you believe in that and stick up for
It is a
yourself.
good thing, huh? See, another God thing.
What was your favorite part about the lifestyle?
The innocence of the beginning of it. The free, the experimental, the cooking with pot, the far out, man. The stuff you laugh at now that you don't remember that is actually almost embarrassing, or that you would never do as a parent or never suggest to your kids to do as a parent. Things change. The circle of life continues. It doesn't change. As parents, as you mature, you change just like your parents did. You're not mini-me's of them, but you change just like they do, and it will always be. And it's just kind of, that part is in me. The way I look at people, the way I react to them, and I catch myself judging, and you've seen it, or we do it. You just have to not, and you just have to not forget where you came from. Doesn't mean you can't go someplace else, but don't forget where you came from. That's the most important part of you, I think. That makes who you are and are going to be.
It's a very important moral to know.
It all starts at home. You take it where you want, but it starts at home.
What kind of impact do you believe the hippies, including yourself, made on modern day life?
Well, I think we were prominent. We were an extremely powerful force, and still are, for the legalization of marijuana. Am I happy about that at this point? I'm not sure. Do I use it? Yes. I do have a medical marijuana card. Did I use it before that? I had stopped years and years ago and did not get high for many, 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 many years. So it was when I got sick a few years ago that somebody said, do it. And I said, no way. And I still struggle with it. I don't know if I'm going to continue or not. Do I want it legal? I think it's a farce the way they try to do it now, even with the cards. I didn't have to prove anything. My doctor suggested it here, but I didn't have to prove anything. I didn't have to take any doctor. I think that's a farce. I think it's ridiculous. There's more junkies sitting in there with medical marijuana cards that are strung out on everything, just getting it because somebody gave it to them. So why not legalize it? If you're going to do that, and there is no regulation, then do it. I think some people, and it's an individual thing, I think it can be very harmful if kids get it really young. I think it can be harmful. So I'm very mixed on it, especially as a parent and a grandparent. But yes, I think that's probably the biggest thing that we did.
Are there any other impacts you believe your movement led on today's generation?
I hope through the drugs that the kids saw not to. You know, I hope they took something from the past, the history, and actually learned from it. It did start out innocent. And it was something to be proud of and stand up for, and it was something in your soul. It was the way you looked at people. It was the way you believed. It was all the intellectual things you talked about, the deep stuff you really got into with your friends that they don't do anymore. Nothing's personal. You're kind of, so I hope people don't ever let go of all of that. But I hope they see the harm that drugs did. And the boldness, I see it differently. I think that authorities needed to be stood up to, but I see a lot of rudeness and disrespect, and it's never ended. It's only grown more and more throughout from the years, and that saddens me. I think we were wrong in that, and I think society was wrong to accept it, but at the same time, somebody had to stand up for what the government was doing. And I think that's the first generation that actually did and said, fuck you.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that you're all wrong or assholes, but it doesn't mean that we're stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And now, you know, everything that they've been doing, we have more access to. We see all the way through. They're just men and women and people like us.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the hippie movement is quite prominent in history. We have the blacks' right movement that was large. And then there was the women's suffrage. And then next in line was the hippie movement, fighting for freedom in our country. Would you consider that the hippie movement was like a war on our own grounds in its own way?
I think all of the movements have been a war on our own grounds in its own way. It wasn't easy, you know, for Elizabeth Parks to sit tall and straight and proud on that bus. Mm-hmm. It's not easy for a woman. When we burned our bras, we weren't saying, look at us. We're saying, this doesn't matter. You know, it's this that matters. We're the same in here as those women were, but we've had all these generations fight their own little wars and civil wars within their own country. This one was big and bold because we had TV, and so it was not just spread across, and so people could see. It was, we called the government. We said no more. You know, we called on what they were doing. So that was important to me. But the women's movement and the black movement, it all is part of us. We had to stand up for the black people. They're no different than us. You should not look and see color. I'm sorry. I just can't see with those eyes.
Would you say that your movement helped with generations to come with more of an open mind and love for each other, or would you say it's just the same now?
I'm afraid that my generation and older that were there have that. I don't see it in our younger generation. I don't. And it scares me for you and for our grandkids. I don't know what we're leaving you. I don't know where the bounds are. I don't think people know where the bounds are anymore, and I think we crossed them a long, long time ago.
Would you say that the movement ended in vain, or that good came from it?
I think good came from it. I think you can say the same about technology. You know, there's good and bad in it. There's good and bad in all of us. And our movement, the way we fight, we do it when we're younger. God has a reason for that, because when you get older, you just want to sit back and shake your head at the other generation, shaking your head saying, oh my, what's just happened, you know? But good is there. Good is there. We can take that good, or we can leave it. You know, that's what we pass down.
Yes.
You know, we got to pass it down. And if you don't pass that love and that, you have to open yourself up for hurt. You have to open yourself up to be stolen from, to be hurt, to be able to love and to help somebody if they need it. You can't close yourself off, and it's really hard not to when you see it happening around you. But you can't. You can't. Or it will end up cold and backstabbing, even more than what it is.
It's very true. What were some of the musicians that you remember that started because of the movement?
Well, you know, I don't know if they ever started because of the movements. You know, the ones that started because the movements aren't there anymore. The ones that started because it was in their soul, but they hung on to the movement, it was my generation.
Yes.
Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, or Jefferson Airplane, turned into Starship, you know, Donovan, Mellow Yellow, and I mean, I just can't even talk about it. I'm smiling. Lovin' Spoonful. There are so many that were there that came out of that movement. I think probably, you know, I probably missed that when you asked me this earlier. That's probably another one of our biggest contributions to society was our music of the 60s. By bar none, you know. Whether I can't stand Jimi Hendrix, but he was part of the movement, and he was very much in the front and center, you know, and at the time it was great.
The movement definitely spawned or emphasized legendary artists and music throughout the years that youths today still listen to.
Everybody who's in my car. Bob Seger, Grateful Dead, oh my gosh. I listen to all of them. Joplin. Not so much Country Joe unless I have him on my 60s album, you know, or my Woodstock album. But all of these enormous stars that were just raw. That some of them I saw the Doors in Huntington Beach at the Brown Bear. I saw Creedence Clearwater Revival in a biker's bar in Whittier. You know, I mean, it was just all these bands you got to go in for cover charge and see all these people. Jim Morrison. Oh, it was just incredible. I wish I remembered more. Because I know I had fun. Yeah, oops.
Yeah. Do you stand by your actions still to this day?
Yeah.
And do you have any regrets?
I have many. I don't know how you can grow up and get old and be 60 without regrets. I don't care what movement you lived through, what age, you're going to regret things. But that's called growing up. If you keep doing them and you don't regret them, you're not growing up. You know, so, yeah, I regret some of the drugs. I regret some of the, I regret a lot. You know, after the Love and Peace was gone, I stole. You know, I could walk out of a store with 6 pairs of Levi's on, out of Jeans West. And that I feel bad about. I will always give, I think, trying to make up for stuff like that I did. Because you can't run away from it. Did I get caught? No. Praise the Lord. No. Didn't.
Do you have any regrets of any actions that have happened throughout any protests or rallies?
Yeah, I have. I was mouthy. So imagine that. You know, you should use the gifts that God gave you. He gave me a mouth. But I regret a lot. I threw a few things at cops that I wish I hadn't have thrown. You know, I would never now, especially I'm with all cops. You know, I mean, God does have a sense of humor also. You know, to put me in the midst of all those thorns. One little flower in the midst of all these thorns. But here I am with all these cops. One flower child. And they love me. You know, I'm back. You know, so I regret. I grew up. But that is still in me. That is still in me. Not the manner in which I protested, or how I did it, but the protest is still there, and the right to do it is important. And do you guys know when I'm not happy? You know, when Mama's not happy, no one's happy, you know? So, you know, you have to protest, but you have to compromise. You have to grow up. It's not always going to be your way.
Besides going to protests and rallies, how else do you feel you were able to protest and make your opinions heard?
Well, just our style, our dress. But it was more than that. It was the way we lived, you know. Everything was macrame. We handmade everything. And we still have these people all around living off the land. Very, very capable and very into it and very good at it. And knowledgeable. And I like a little more comfort. I like the microwave. I like the bed, you know. Flushing toilet, it's a biggie. Showers. All those things that I did without for years because, you know, it was cool to live on a mountaintop in Oregon with Timothy Leary and his son and daughter and amongst, you know, 100 other people until the snow and everything came, you know. And you do stay warm in those teepees, but, ooh, it gets cold too, you know. So it's all to do, I think, when you're young, and then you live by what you set for yourself. And I think that's important. Do not forget. If you believed it then, if you fought and you believed something then, if you changed your opinion, that's okay, but fight for what you believe. Now, it doesn't mean because you believed it then, it has to be the same now. It does not. And hopefully it won't be, but stand up for what you believe and be counted. Always.
What were some of the things you did to express your feelings for the war and willingness for peace?
Well, I went to every peaceful march that I could. I did try to stay away. If I thought there was going to be troublemakers and it was going to be something that was just going to be for that reason, that nothing was going to be done, you know, you had to pick and choose, you know, and I went for those that I believed in. And I stayed away from those that you had to pick your causes. There were so many that sprung up, you know, everything sprung up.
Were there any big names, like if for example, if you heard John Smith was rallying head of the protest or getting the protest together, would you avoid that specific one?
If I had reason to, if they did, you know, because you would find out there would be, you knew that this guy, and you got to know these people. If they were from, not necessarily from Berkeley, but if they were over from my part of town, in the Barry, you know, you would know these people. You would know, you picked your friends. I mean, like I said, in the beginning, we were all one, but it got so big, there's never one that big. It breaks off into all these little teeny things, and these things get infected, and they get they don't work right within the unit, you know, and that's where it starts. And sometimes it takes a long time for people to see it. It takes a long time for them to change.
Are there any names in particular that stand out to people you didn't exactly agree with?
You mean famous people?
No, people who were in your community leading, for example.
Yeah, Bobby
protesting-
Jones. You know, I would like to smack him down this day. I'd like to see where he is and how he is, because, boy, I could burn him. I could burn him bad, and I think if I had the chance now, I would. He was bad to the core, and I kept my mouth shut, and I shouldn't have.
Did you ever get the chance to share your movement personally with a celebrity of any kind of the time? Musicians?
No, there was a, we used to hang out with this group called McDonald's Pond. They were friends of Chicago's, and they were also friends of Sly and the Family Stone. So we got to go for a while. This was kind of more after my hippie move, my real hippie movement. This was after that part. And we got to, we went, with McDonald's Pond, we went out to this picnic thing they were having, kind of just a jam session with people, and a lot of these people were out there, and it was out on Manson's farm. We actually met Charles Manson that day. I met him twice, actually, for that same group of people that were out there.
Charles Manson, how was your...
But I didn't, you know, I mean, this is Charlie, that was it, you know. That,
Yeah.
He does, no, I don't know him. I'm not part of that.
Yeah.
Never have been.
Were you aware of Charlie's plans or actions through at the time? Or?
Oh, no. This was quite a while before all that went down. It was a long time before that, actually. So it was a long time. I don't know how long. It was quite a while before, you know, he lost it.
Mm-hmm.
And all that was going down. So.
Did he seem to be a sane person at the time? Or?
Well, the first time we met him, yeah, you know, he did mumble to himself, but so do I. Well, I don't mumble, I just talk to myself. And so I give him a little slack for that. But the second time he was under the deck of this cabin, with a deck on it, and he was underneath it, so I had no idea. And we just kind of strode on by.
That's certainly interesting.
Yeah. See again.
What is your
God.
opinion on modern day hippies? The
There aren't any.
youngsters that claim
They're
to
not.
be hippies.
They're not. They don't have a clue what it is. I go to the hippie fair, well, until I moved here. I went to the hippie fair in Oregon every year, up by Eugene, and Elmira, Oregon, and you had all these youngsters that thought they were so hippie, you know, going around with their tops off, all painted, and my girlfriend kept saying, "Are those hippies?" I said, "No, look at their ages, you know, no. You don't want to see a real hippie walking around naked. Think about it. You don't want to see that, believe me." So, they pretend. They don't know what it was like. They don't have the camaraderie of the movement that brought us together, the war, or the anti-movement, I should say, that brought us together. Are you BB?
No, ma'am.
So anyway, they're not hippies. They don't stand for the same thing. The yuppie is totally different, totally opposite. You know, the hippie is the heart. Every now and then you'll find someone that has it here. And I'll say, man, they would have made a good hippie. You know, I mean, it's just the heart. You could see them with long hair and a headband around them, and you could see them in a long skirt, or, you know, you could just see them in the kitchen making, you know, homemade tortillas or whatever we were doing at the time or into, or, you know, making pot butter and doing all this sieving and through the sieves and all the dinners we cooked. Alice's restaurant, year round, you know. So, yeah.
Do you consider yourself proud to be an original hippie?
Yeah, I'd rather be an original than a phony. All the way. Yeah. Yeah, because there was a lot of people that did not go to Haight-Ashbury that were original hippies, that were in Laguna Canyon. Oh my gosh, still there. Although not living in the canyon like we did. It's all built up into condos now and houses, but yeah, I do. I don't think people will know what that love felt like for that short time, space and time that was actual, genuine, when we all gathered together, kind of the Woodstock time, the Woodstock could never happen now. It could never go off like it did with all the overdoses and the problems that they had there. There were none for all that many people. You would never have that again without the hippies and the love children and the flower children. It was all a mindset until we got guarded against the thievery and the drug addicts, and it all went to hell.
What is your favorite memory from that time?
I was working, it was a Sunday, I think, Saturday or Sunday, and I heard this raspy old voice, and she was drunk too, but she could sing. Janis Joplin was there because this was the heart of it. She's out there. She didn't even have her guitar box out there with her. She was playing a tambourine and singing, and somebody got her a bowl, and she had like $500 by the end of the day, and it was just a hoo. We were drinking and smoking, and I'm working. Here I am making jewelry and working, and Janis Joplin is serenading me outside my window. Her back of her head, I could almost reach out and scratch her if I could get through the screen, and there she is, and everybody's walking by. They don't have a fucking clue who she is, And now looking back on that, if you want one, there were so many, but absolutely looking back on one, that would have to have been it. It was a summer day, stoned. Oh, we stoned. You couldn't walk through Haight-Ashbury without getting stoned. It was just walk by and you're walking going, whoa. Because everybody smoked.
Yeah. I have one last question for you. When you mentioned that you went to Haight-Ashbury when you were 13 years old, were you doing any school studies throughout your time?
No, I went to Haight-Ashbury during the summer, and I came home. I went to school. I never moved back home. But I went to school. I graduated in 1970, right when I was supposed to. And that's because everybody said I wouldn't, and I'd be pregnant. And I just had this kind of, watch me. And I graduated with my class on time.
That is definitely something to be proud of, especially considering everything that was going on and all of the influences.
There was a lot of influences, and that's why I didn't live with my parents anymore. But I was always close to them. I had their upbringing and their roots, and it was good. I needed it for what I was doing, because I was always, I'm just always so independent. I raised Brandy to be extremely independent. I'm kind of sorry about it now, but she's very independent.
She's a flower child by definition, so...
she just, she doesn't agree with any of my former life. She is so opposite of me in every way, in so many ways, but yet, she got to reap the good part of it, I'd say. Not all of it good, but she got to reap the better part. than some of the other crap. But I'm glad I was there. Would I want to go back? No. Knowing what I know now, I would have nearly as much fun. It wouldn't be the same. Don't want to go back and do anything. No, I don't want to go ahead knowing what's going to happen.
It's a time best preserved in its age.
Yes, it is. In the time capsule, as I was once told. A teacher of mine put my story in a time capsule at Centralia Community College.
Now, your story gets to be heard.
There it goes. Thank you, sweetheart.
Thank you very much for letting me interview you. I had a great time.
Give me a kiss. I'm your mother. I'll give you a hug too. Are you gonna make me stand up? Okay,
Yep.
We're done. Oh, I should have worn my tie-dyes, huh? I didn't even think about tie-dyes when I got dressed. He's gonna bite your tail. You don't want your tail, huh? Oh.
Okay, so today we're going to ask you questions about how it was when you were in the 60s and 70s and life as a hippie. So if you can take a minute to introduce yourself to the camera or to me.
I'm Lonnie Renard. I'm Lauren's stepmom. I am a 1960 leftover flower child from Haight-Ashbury. And it was the best time I can't remember.
That about sums it up.
About sums it up.
And I am Lauren Renard, and this is my techno history interview project. And we're ready to begin. Now let's start with, describe to me in your own words what you would define as a hippie. And what is it that you stand for?
Well, I think being a real hippie is something more than just something of the times. It's something that's in your soul.
Yeah.
And it's not standing for anything. At the time, it was during the Vietnam War. We protested, get drafted, or run away, or get killed. Nothing.
Yeah.
For nothing.
Um,
If you thought something came out of it and there was a reason, then damn it, you stand behind them and you go, whether you like it or not. This was useless.
What, in your opinion, was useless about the war? Why was it?
It was all for political gain. It was a chessboard of the politicians. And I can't think of anything more immoral. And even now, we turn our eye to them. They haven't changed. The morals have gotten even worse, partly because of us. We've evolved into a lot more, but there was nothing moral about it. Ask me what was moral would be easier to answer, because nothing.
Yeah, that's definitely understandable. What was your daily life like throughout the movement?
Well, I ran into a group of older kids. I was only 13 when I took off and started hitchhiking. I had a friend, I met a person named Dude. And
His name was Dude?
Dude. That's all I'm privileged to say.
Alright.
And he was a good friend. We went to Haight-Ashbury. We burned our bras. Some burned the flag, I didn't. And we definitely protested the war, but not the soldiers. Big difference. Didn't protest our soldiers. And we did a lot of drugs.
Yes.
Stupidly. Innocently, and some very harmfully. But we did them.
You mentioned the Vietnam War, which leads to my next question. We all know what the hippie movement stood for against the war, but what was your personal feelings towards the war?
It was immoral, it was wrong. It was hard to see people I know